Hey, it's Renee Keel, host of TradeIQ and Chief Operating Officer at BrokerBin, the leading B2B exchange for IT professionals, resellers, and wholesalers. I'm thrilled to introduce TradeIQ to you, the podcast that shares the economic stories of IT hardware resale. Each episode, I interview an industry leader who embodies what it takes to realize success in the ever-changing and highly competitive secondary IT market. What does it truly mean to be an ITAD provider? How do companies mitigate supply chain risks? How can your business thrive amidst changing market conditions that eat away at profit margins? Explore these topics and more on TradeIQ from BrokerBin.com. And while I have your attention, I want to personally invite you to attend a BrokerBin Roadshow. This biannual event brings together ITAD and ITAM providers, wholesalers, resellers, and service professionals all under one roof for 2.5 days of high-value networking. Join us in London this May and Nashville in September. Learn more and register at brokerbinroadshow.com.
We've had this success for so long, it was completely new to us. To be in that position where we had to be so proactive. We started, again, those 1%. What can we make better? What can we do? What product offerings have we got that we can, go after? What gaps can we plug? So that's what we started doing.
Marcus Lowe is the head of international sales at Techbuyer, where he has played a key role in the company's growth since 2007, which was the year he was hired as the very first employee. 2007 was also the year Techbuyer joined BrokerBin. Since its humble beginnings in Harrogate, a small town in North Yorkshire, England, Techbuyer has grown into a global company with offices and warehouses across the United States, Europe, and Asia Pacific. The challenges of recent years differ from the growing pains of Techbuyer's startup years. In particular, the coronavirus pandemic single-handedly uprooted business as usual for companies around the world. Yet, Techbuyer mustered the willpower to lean into this challenge and infuse their 1% philosophy that goes something like this. Once you make it 1% better for your customers, employees, partners, and the overall business, then you move on to the next 1%. On this episode of TradeIQ, Marcus and I get into what this 1% philosophy looks like in practice and how it's played a big role in Techbuyer's success from startup years through this post-pandemic era we're now doing business in.
Techbuyer. Okay, Techbuyer has been in business since 2005, 18 years.
Yeah, a while.
What's that?
Just a while.
Just a while, yep, 18 years. Started by Kevin Towers. And Marcus, you were the very first employee. That's incredible. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, his wife was here as well, but yeah, the first actual employee, I guess you could say. Yeah, time flies.
Time flies, yeah, I know. That's awesome. And now, obviously, your company is, spans the globe, as we've just been talking about. You're head of international sales. And so tell me about the beginning and how you have come to where you guys are today.
The beginning was small office, sharing a desk. If you wanted to print something, you had to kind of steal the USB cable off each other.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the small stories. And then, I guess from there, the difficult part really was trying to find the right stock that everybody wanted, because we weren't a big player in the market. We were really, really small. So it was finding the right stock at the right price and being able to kind of move the stock into these, the other people that were the big players, and start really demanding the market and kind of making a name for ourselves. It was tough. It was a lot of hours, mainly for Kev, not for me at that point. But that philosophy of, work hard, play hard sort of really rubbed off, and really kind of took effect probably within the first sort of 3 or 4 months, when you started seeing the opportunities that were out there, and sort of the scope of what could become. It's sort of kind of ingrained in you pretty quickly that you needed to work, you needed to make yourself better than everyone else, and just put yourself out there. And then obviously across the 18 years, we've now got 5 offices. We've done got an office in Minnesota where you guys are, which is just a sales office, then a warehouse in Jersey. Germany's a sales office, got a warehouse in France. Yeah, and then obviously we've got Australia and New Zealand as well, which, again, spanning that globe and is just incredible.
It really is incredible. It really is incredible. And when I think back to, 18 years ago, I mean, we definitely didn't, it doesn't seem like this would be the case, but we definitely did not at that time have the resources that we have today, like even the internet, to be able to like make those connections and find, I mean, so you're really at that point back then, you're like pounding the pavement, basically, just truly making phone calls and trying to figure out who's who and what's where. And
yeah, it was all very manual.
exactly.
I don't think, well, you guys didn't have RTI when I joined, so I've been here, 16 years. And yeah, it was just like get a part in front of you, had an Excel spreadsheet, you'd check what the part number was, and you would basically check every part in front of you for any additional spares numbers, any information that you could kind of glean from it, save the Excel spreadsheet, and then re-upload it onto BrokerBin. And then, if you sold something, it was exactly the same, but in reverse. Yeah, it was just...
It's incredible to think about that, and to think about how much technology has changed in just this time, just since BrokerBin or since Techbuyer has started. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Kev always used to have a philosophy, which at the beginning was a bit of a joke, really. It was like, we're going to chase the sun. And that was the reason for working like long hours. But now, obviously, it's now become a reality that we've got offices in different locations, and we literally can chase the sun and service everyone at any point of the day.
That's so cool. I love that. I love that. And so what do you think it is that makes Techbuyer different from other resellers in the secondary IT hardware market? Makes you guys different?
I'm a firm believer that people buy off people. Everyone around here is on board with that. So we try and let our natural personality as an individual come through, so the customer sees that. And then after that, we build on those personal relationships. I guess we actually try to make them more like friendships, really. And then following on from that, we make sure that we deliver on our promises, always trying to go the extra mile to really deliver that customer excellence that, we believe in. I guess also the business is full of dedicated people who are just committed to making those 1% improvements each day. That applies right across the board, the whole business. And we actually empower people to do that internally. So the mindset of most people within Techbuyer is kind of embedded from day one, I guess. When new employees come in, spend a minimum of 4 weeks going around each department within the business, from accounts to marketing, then into the warehouse, where they spend time with each individual team. So we've got drive tests, goods in, goods out, stock control, goods out technical, who do all the configuration. So by the time that they actually reach the position, in our instance, obviously sales, they know exactly how to configure a server. They know exactly what each department can do and can help them with. So if they get a customer query, they can set the right expectations with the customer and solve any issues that do arise as quick as possible. I think that's kind of key, and you kind of can prove yourself by how quickly you solve issues when they do arise. And I guess just going back to those small 1% improvements, current small examples that we've got going on within the business each day is like drive test and RMA are currently working, well, all testing teams really are currently working alongside each other with RMA to get the faulty returns rate down from 0.26% to the benchmark that we've set of 0.15%, which I guess just kind of shows our commitment really to providing quality refurbished products. And then beside that, we've got our in-house research team that constantly looking into different things like energy efficiency versus configurations to make sure that we can maximize performance and make sure that sales teams are informed to be able to give customers the best value and most sustainable options. So yeah, I guess everyone has access to this information, but it's about how you use it to your advantage. And that's what I believe makes Techbuyer stand out.
Do you typically hire people with like any kind of IT background?
No, in the past when we have kind of hired a couple of people that have had IT backgrounds, it's not really worked. Again, due to how we kind of perform as a business and how we kind of structure ourselves.
Sure.
Obviously, people that have been in IT previously in IT sales roles, it's very dog eat dog, personal commission and, kind of taking deals off each other's plates, even within the same business. And we're not about that. We're here to kind of provide the best service we can and work together collaboratively as a team.
I love it.
So, every day there is numerous examples in our office where people are like, oh, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And, we'll bounce ideas off each other. And, again, if someone's like behind on the workload because they've been in a meeting or whatever, like that work will get spread out, and everyone will help each other, will send everything off. And then when the deals come in, it just all goes into one big pot. So,
okay,
so,
that's great.
Yeah, we're quite happy with how it works because we don't want that, at the end of the day, who loses out? It's kind of the business that loses out and the customer that loses out at the end of it because, people are just trying to make a quick buck. But
yeah, and I would assume that sort of creates like an organic motivation in the salespeople because nobody wants to be the person who's not like pulling their weight or like contributing, right? So it kind of builds the culture that way.
Yeah, the culture in our office is, across the business is just incredible. You can walk around any part of the business, everyone pretty much knows everyone, unless they're brand new. And if they need help, like if the warehouse need help and, they've got loads of stuff to book in or they're behind on configurations, like you can just go down and help them, or sometimes they do weekend work and you just kind of come in and help them for a little bit, and it goes a long way. There's a proper team effort right across the business. It kind of just goes back to the training. It's kind of embedded from the beginning that when you come in, your first 4 to 6 weeks is spending time and properly understanding what each and every department within the business does, so that then when a customer comes to you and asks the question, you're like, well, I know who to go to for that. And, sometimes, customers aren't happy with what's happened, but you know why that's happened because you understand the way we work as a business and, how to then kind of relay that to the customer and make them understand what we do.
So helpful. And that really does then, my next question was actually going to be, how does your company culture influence your and build your customer relationships? But that's exactly how it does, is right there. We've already kind of answered that, is like it snowballs from your internal culture and then that kind of permeates into your business relationships as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We try and be open, honest, and work with our customers. And, we just kind of have that openness to share everything we're doing, try and teach them, because if we can make it easier for them, then, they can look better to their customer. And then in turn, the business kind of comes back down the chain because they want to work with you. So yeah.
Awesome. I love that. I love that philosophy and strategy. And so do you feel like there is a myth or a common sort of misconception about your profession that you would like to debunk while we have you
here? I guess, one thing I've learned recently, obviously, when you've got phones or, like laptops and stuff and you're buying like tech for home use, it's always, I want the latest and greatest, I want the best iPhone. I want the best laptop to surf the internet on or do whatever you're doing with it.
Yeah.
But I think, something I've learned from here goes kind of into the circular piece. We've got a team of researchers in-house, and, for one of our like sister companies, Interact, that do a lot of work on like data analytics of servers, performance, energy consumption, basically, all that sort of stuff, which is really great. And I think from that, I've really learned that actually the latest and greatest isn't always the best. you know, especially from a greenhouse gases point of view,
gosh, right.
all the emissions and everything. You know, it's not cheap because it's old. It's cheap because there's more availability in the market. There's more, you know, it's just easier to kind of procure. But it also gives you flexibility with it, you know, which is why we can maximize potential and, you know, give our customers the scope, you know, whilst kind of, it sounds cheesy, but saving the planet to a point.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's cheesy at all. I think it's a struggle, you know, this is something we talk about or think about quite a bit on the energy bin side of our business. Yeah. And sometimes I think that industry is like almost cannibalizing itself a little bit. Well, that's maybe too strong of a word, but you know, constantly updating the technology to the point where people feel they need to just constantly upgrade their technology is actually doing much more harm than good when we started out in that space to be more green, right?
Yeah. It's certainly interesting. Like, yeah, when you actually sit down and look at it and look at all the research, especially what our guys are doing in the background, yeah, there's some incredible stuff going on. But maybe that's one for a separate call.
Yeah. Okay. And so back to being in startup mode, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, but what do you feel like are the top challenges that you face? I know we talked about like having to be obviously working all the time and chasing the sun, but what were the top challenges back then starting up?
I think it's like you said earlier, really, you know, being able to kind of find the right products at the right price, you know, and having the sort of like the pull for people to kind of sell it to you instead of selling it to someone else. You know, obviously everybody wants terms, and you know, if you're a small business, you don't have like necessarily the credit rating or the backing at that point. So I think that was the main struggle. Like basically being able to find the product and being able to kind of maximize what we did. So yeah, but you know, flip it on its head now, 18 years down the line, and we've got 7 people just in the UK spending like £2.5 million, you know, a month, which gives us the ability to kind of do what we do, you know, and have it all on the shelf ready to go. So when someone kind of goes, I need this, I need that, you know, you kind of straight out there. Yeah,
that's
you know,
great.
It's what works for us. You know, we try and kind of make everything as easy for people as possible and give people the biggest opportunity to kind of use us. So yeah, you know, I've got late shipping cut-offs and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we've got it on the shelf, and right up until the minute before the truck leaves, we can get it out, we can get it going.
That's awesome. That's great. So all of those systems in the background, are they like proprietary to you guys? Did you build, you know, kind of as you went, the processes for things to, you know, an order comes in and pull it off the shelf and get out to shipping, you know, did you guys build something internally, or were you using like off the shelf software, or how did that kind of come about?
You know, we're always looking to improve process. We're always looking to change what we can to give a customer a better customer experience. You know, we've looked at things like a lot of what we do is actually quite manual. We've tried to automate a lot, but we've had, like for shipping labels, for example, all that's processed manually. And you know, most people kind of have like an API where you can click a button on your system and it pings off the invoice, it prints out your label and stuff like that. We've had probably 5 or 6, you know, big companies coming here to say, oh, we can do this solution for you. And then they come in and they go, the way you work isn't right. You should work this way. This is how you dispatch things. And we're like, no, that's not the way it works for us. Like, you know, we don't have one common box size. We don't have one common like commodity code, all that sort of stuff. So the way we do it, from like sort of like, I forgot the word, probably like a security point of view, like a final check for the customer, everything's sort of checked. So it comes in, it sits with goods in, they test it, they double check it, they book it in. It then goes into like quality control. So they double check the condition, they double check the part number before it goes on the shelf. And then when it comes out and it's sold, it's then picked by one person that checks it. It then gets signed off by another person. And then at that point, it then, gets dispatched before it's packaged. So the guys down there roughly know what goes in what box, so they can sort of, take an educated guess. But yeah, the way that other people are telling you to do it is just kind of like you should pick it, pack it, then dispatch it. But we're like, it just doesn't work for us.
Yeah. That's great though, that you guys can say like, hey, this is our business. This is our business model. This is, it's working for us. And sometimes when you look at some of those, I mean, this is a really generalized statement, but sometimes you look at, like software that's off the shelf that's supposedly so much more efficient. Well, then there's not a lot of flexibility in it either, and a lot of times that's not better. In the long run, it makes it less efficient because you got to then come up with workarounds or figure something else out, or so.
And pay a fortune to get it done.
Yeah. Okay, so Marcus, what was your first big success moment as an IT reseller?
I had to think about this one for quite a while, to be fair. I don't think there is like one big moment. Again, like all the guys and myself included, and right down from the foundation of the business right up to like the top. Everybody tries to make them 1%. I guess the first big success was probably opening the North America office, which was originally in Vancouver.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so it was January 2014. I went out to Vancouver for a week, 2 weeks, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was someone we knew that was moving out there, and we're kind of like, let's give it a go. This is a market we want to crack. There's a load of people in the States, so let's go for it.
Yeah.
And he was moving to Vancouver, so it was like, well, let's start there. So that's where it was. And then, from then we acquired Memory Dog at that point and moved everything down to New Jersey. And then the sales office in Minnesota came a few months later. But yeah, I think that was like the first, it was the first piece of the Chase the Sun jigsaw. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the proudest moments is, starting to kind of put that jigsaw together. And now we've kind of pretty much completed the jigsaw. Yeah,
that's amazing. So cool. So cool. And so how often are you in Minnesota, or how often have you been here?
I've been to Minnesota probably 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
Done Philadelphia or New Jersey, should I say, like 3 or 4 times. It's not often, but yeah.
Okay, well, you just make sure you put BrokerBin like on your list. Step in.
I've been to your office.
You have, okay.
Just not while you're open.
I guess. Oh, okay. I was gonna say. Okay.
Yeah, I went out. I met Ben for some food, and he was like,
"I remember that. Yes.
Like, I'll show you where BrokerBin is." So I was like, "Cool, yeah."
That's great. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I think that's probably the biggest piece for me. But there's loads of little pieces that go alongside it. Like all the accreditations for ISOs and a DISA and R2V3. I think it was 2019 when we were given the Queen's Award for International Trade, which is obviously pretty prestigious within the UK business market. So
that's wonderful. That's so cool. And so in all of that process, is there something that you wish you would have learned sooner or known better early on? Or that can be a tricky question, because sometimes it's like, had we known that, then this wouldn't have happened. Sometimes you gotta go through the process. But anything you wish you would have known ahead of time?
I think hindsight's a wonderful thing, like we're touching on. If we knew the recipe for success 10 years sooner, then we would have all been doing it 10 years earlier. But I think the training piece is quite big for me. Originally when I started, it was kind of just fumble around and see what you can kind of figure out in terms of compatibility and testing. And, you know, I remember one of my first challenges was, can you create a testing rig for us? And I was just like, no clue. Let's start looking through like HP quick specs and seeing what links up and what software there is. And yeah, so that took a while, but you know, it was good fun. And I think, you know, being able to do that research yourself is, you know, it sets you up for later down the line.
And just having the mindset of like, I don't know, but I can figure it out, or I can try to figure it out, or I can find somebody who can help me, you know.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think that's what you've got to do. But then with that, off the back of that, we then created like the training plan. And, you know, there's a lot of guys here that moved up into senior positions and they said, you know, what would be really good? Actually, if I'd have known this when I first started, then it would have helped me with this. So we now have things like skills matrices, obviously the 4 to 6 week training program that has to be signed off by each department to give you the competency when you get into your actual role. You know, and that's before, like if it was sales, it's 4 to 6 weeks in other departments, you know, like products and pricing to understand how they do it, what like market factors they look at when they're giving us our benchmarking. You know, all those sorts of things, so that when you actually first kind of spend your first couple of days sat with the sales team, like you understand what they're sort of checking, what they're looking, and it all sort of starts to click into place. So yeah, I think that would have been
setting people up for success.
That's what we try. Yeah, you know, we try and do it where we, again, sounds quite cheesy, but you know, you give them the skills and the ability to kind of make a success of themselves and the ability to leave if they wanted to leave, but you kind of empower people to the point where they want to be here because of the culture. You know, it's a great culture. It's a great place to work.
Yeah, I love that. That was actually my next question to you, was going to be like, what motivates you to keep doing what you're doing? And it sounds like that's part of it. You're in a great environment.
Yeah. Been in a room with people that are like, you know, the same as you, that everyone's driven, everyone's got the same common goal. Yeah, it's great. You know, everyone wants to make that 1% difference each day, make it better for us, better for the customer. Ultimately, you know, you're kind of pushing the standard of the industry along. So it's better for everyone ultimately.
Yeah. When you keep talking about that 1% better, it's reminding me, last year I read the book Atomic Habits. Are you familiar with that book?
I've not heard of that one. I try not to read because I spend the day reading emails.
Audible. Anyway, it's very similar. That the philosophy is very similar of just, I think in the book they talk about like the extra, you know, 10%, but he just talks about like the small tweaks that you're constantly making that makes such a massive difference in the end. So
yeah, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you know, just keep tweaking it and eventually it'll maximize what you can do.
Yeah. So let's talk about kind of present day or the current times. Has there been anything in the last few months that have really surprised you guys or caught you off guard? Or, you know, what's your current biggest challenge?
I think probably recently it's the whole like market crash last year. You know, obviously COVID was, you know, for the refurbished sector, the COVID was, sounds awful, but a bit of a godsend because everything kind of went on hold and, you know, everyone was able to kind of push out their stock and, you know, like really maximize what they did. Just because, like, again, all the manufacturers were like quoting stuff and people were buying it because they needed the infrastructure to work from home. And I know in the UK, I'm not sure about what it was like in the US, but it was pretty much, you know, from tomorrow, you are working from home. And we were quite lucky that we were able to work remotely anyway. But it did put a lot of strain on our systems that were kind of designed to cope with it or cope with the majority of it. But yeah, there's a lot of businesses out there that obviously weren't set up to cope with that then went to the likes of HP and Dell and whatnot, and they were saying, yeah, we can get it for you. They were placing the orders, and then suddenly the lead time started going from like 2 to 3 weeks to 3 to 6 months, and then, you know, 9 to 12 months, and just became a nightmare for everyone. You know, so like everyone, we kind of rode that wave quite well, especially people that did laptops, which we didn't really do at that point. But yeah, then obviously the start of last year, you know, we thought it was just the tail off from Christmas had just extended a little bit because COVID had kind of finished, or not finished, but it tailed off again. And everyone was back in the office, so people were just taking a little bit of extra time at Christmas, and then the market just never really picked up. So that was a real tough one. But we used it it's hard to say, but we used it as a positive as well. Like while we were quiet, we were on the phones drumming up business. We were looking at the gaps in the market about what actually can we do better. Why are people going to other people over us? We've had this success for so long, it was completely new to us. To be in that position where we had to be so proactive. So yeah, we started again, those 1%. What can we make better? What can we do? What product offerings have we got that we can, go after? What gaps can we plug? So that's what we started doing.
Yeah, that's great. That's what you have to. That's the only thing any business can do in those situations, when you're facing a challenge, especially what felt, I think, for a lot of companies across the world, like post-COVID, it felt like there was a bit of there's going to be a recovery, and then there was like another bit of a hit that I don't think anybody was really expecting, right?
No, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it kind of doubled down again. So yeah, but yeah, again, we made of it what we could. We did what we could to stand out from the crowd, and still here fighting.
Yeah, I love it. You're such a great example of that. And so now you guys you started in 2007, and that's also when you joined BrokerBin.
Yeah.
So we've had 16 years. That's awesome. I love it. And so how do you feel like BrokerBin helps to achieve your business objectives, or I should say using BrokerBin, and what advice do you have for other members? And I think that's really the most important part of this question is what advice do you have for other BrokerBin members to maximize the value of their membership? You guys have done it very well, and I feel like hopefully I can say that we've partnered with you guys very well over the last 16 years, and it's been successful for both of us in that relationship. And so what advice would you give to other BrokerBin members?
I'd say, I definitely recommend spending the time with your account manager to actually understand the full potential of the platform. There's some really useful features that are in there. Certainly ones that we find useful are like the new customers page and the show first. So when you're looking for products, obviously if you're a buyer, you make sure that you're interacting with your preferred suppliers. And I guess on the flip side of that, from a sales perspective, you can ask your customers to first you so that then you're on their first list, and you're making sure that you're coming up at the top of their list for any relevant products that you've got in stock. Supply and demand is also a good feature, because you can kind of understand where the market's at, who's looking for it, if it's because they've got stock or potentially people with a request. And then I think the BrokerBin roadshows have always been a big positive for us. We've never really come away from one thinking that it's not been beneficial. And I guess there's nothing else really like it within our industry. You've got a vast amount of people, existing and potential customers from all over the globe in one place, and you all share a common goal. So yeah, that I think that's a massive benefit, and kind of goes back to people buy from people, really. These events really allow us to kind of put this into practice by meeting face to face, building those relationships with people, either starting to build the relationships or kind of, further building those relationships and kind of cementing those foundations that we've got with people. So yeah, I think they're the sort of key points I'd put across.
Just a couple more questions here, and then we can wrap up. I know you're a busy guy, but who do you feel like has been a good resource for you, or a good mentor for you?
I'd have to say Kev, to be honest. Especially when I first started, he's just like a fountain of knowledge.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in like technical terms, but just like how he leads by example. He's always there. He's always positive. he's always friendly. There's kind of no stigma. There's no sort of like tears where you can't talk to me, you can't do this, you can't do that. He's always just on the end of the phone. He's just always been there for me and for a lot of people. There's probably a lot of there's loads of stories that I could kind of come out with that, each one benefits you. It might not even be work related, but it still always benefits you in one way or another.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's got to be Kev.
That's
just
amazing. And look at
probably,
what his approach has done is built this incredible company with this, amazing culture and
and that culture starts from him. It starts from the top with him, works all the way down. He's probably, he won't like me for saying this, but he's probably not so much as a resource, but more like inspirational, just because of how he goes about his day, and how he comes across to people. He can walk in the office, or he has walked in this office a few times when he's been back from the States, and just go around like saying hi to everyone, a couple of fist bumps, and some people that like are newer to the business that don't actually know him will just be like, who's this guy, and like, he's not like dressed in all this fancy stuff. He's not in a fancy car. He's just kind of your run of the mill guy who just wants the best for everyone.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so great. Okay, well, we really appreciate your time, Marcus. And I especially, because I know I sometimes get to see you guys at the road shows, or I'm always like waving at you when you're talking to David Lewis, but I don't get this kind of time with our clients. So I love it. It's a real treat for me. Okay, where can listeners find out more information about Techbuyer? Your website, I'm assuming?
Yeah, website, blog posts, LinkedIn's probably the most up to date, or the most kind of kept the most up to date, like with daily activity, or just drop me a line. I'm always happy to kind of jump on a call or a Teams, a phone call, Skype, whatever people want, if they want to kind of ask questions, or if there's anything I can kind of help with.
That's awesome. I love that. Your contact information, I'm assuming, is all on your BrokerBin profile as well. And you just reach out. Yeah. Good. That's my new thing, is reminding everybody to have a complete profile on BrokerBin.
Well, it helps.
It helps, yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, again, we just really appreciate your time. I'll let you get back to your day, and hopefully we can
nerve-jangling, but fun.
Say that again.
It's been nerve-jangling, but fun. It's good to get out your comfort zone sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, it's good. Good to get us out of our comfort zone a little bit, right?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Here, Marcus. Thank you.
All right, see you in a bit.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again to Marcus Lowe at Techbuyer for joining the podcast. TradeIQ is a production of BrokerBin, the leading B2B exchange for IT professionals, resellers, and wholesalers. Subscribe to TradeIQ for new episodes as we share the economic stories of IT hardware resale from industry leaders who work tirelessly to expand asset life cycles and eliminate e-waste. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on TradeIQ from BrokerBin.com.